Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you for being here. I see lots and lots of familiar faces, but let's go ahead and do introductions anyway. I'm going to throw Robert into the bus. It's been a while since Robert's been here.
Yes,
So
I'm happy to be back.
introductions. Lieutenant, will you start, please?
Yes, Ashley Stevenson. I am the Southeast Lieutenant. I'm currently acting commander for Commander Richard while he's gone at the FBI Academy, but he will be back on Monday. So, but also be trying to come to these. Make it to these ones specifically.
So,
I'm Laura King, Senior Crime Prevention Specialist with EPD. Natalie, President for Southside Playbook.
I'm Danielle Smith. I'm a forensic case manager with Bernalillo County Sheriff's Office in their behavioral health unit. I'm also on the South San Pedro board, but my purposes for tonight are work purposes. I have to keep them separate. So tonight I'm here for BCSO.
I'm Wally Book from Parkland Hills, I think. Day anyway.
Wally brought the pizza for everybody.
Oh, thank you, Wally.
Please help yourselves. When I heard Mr. B's story last meeting about how hard it was for him, I thought buying local and treating everybody would be a nice thing to do. So
Thank you. That's very thoughtful.
help yourselves. I don't want to take any home because I'll just eat it.
Good evening, I'm Doug Chaplin, City of Albuquerque Associate Director here at Gateway Center.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you all. Laura Lucero. I am the Gateway Systems Manager.
Jennifer McDonald, Gateway Operations Officer.
Sandra Correa, President of District Six Coalition, and President of Elder Homes. Yeah, thank you.
Double
Angelica Archuleta Romero, Field Representative in Mayor's Office. See you.
I'm Chuck Holman. I'm a resident of the Trumbull Village Neighborhood Association. And I'm Executive Director of the 82 Plan Nonprofit.
I'm Eric Hautman. It's been a while since I've been one of these. It's nice to be back. I'm a program director for the Gateway Medical Respite, and I also live next door at the cross. So two hats, so to speak. And for today, I'm not doing any presentation. I'm just here to join again. I didn't tell you.
I would say that, you know.
That I know of.
You kind of late notice.
Yeah.
Janet Simon from Parkland Hills.
Mike Wachowski from Mark Twain Neighborhood.
Steve Sacco, business owner and board member of Elder Homestead.
I'm the Gateway Systems Analyst. That's been a long day.
Laura's just giving herself new titles. She's like, I want a new job. I'm giving her something time. Okay, let's go over rules real quick. I remember to post them this time. So remember, we'll be hard on the issues, easy on the people, listen to learn, speak to understand, respect the speaker, respect the listener, stay on topic to respect the agenda and time constraints, set timing followed updates for action, be kind and let's have fun too. Speaking things, I have had a meeting with Maria Wolf today. She's at 2005. I have reordered the agenda a little bit today because I don't think ACS will make it for our presentation. So I wanted to give them more time to get here. So we flipped the agenda a little bit. We also didn't have time to go over stats at last meeting. So I wanted to give us time to do that as well. But before we start with data, I wanted to give Angelica just a little bit of time to talk about a new program that's coming up. Sorry, I'm like your server at the restaurant.
Yeah.
Right?
I am ready. So I am going to talk about our newest traffic safety initiative that's launched. I had hoped to bring some cute little swag for everybody, but the marketing materials are still being finalized. So this is just kind of your preview of what it will look like. It is the Stop for Everyone campaign. And so, as we all know, here in, this area in particular, Central is, known for its, traffic fatalities, unfortunately. And we have been, utilizing some safety measures already with, through Vision Zero. But we, recently, again, have launched this Stop for Everyone campaign, and we're gonna have a whole presentation once everything is ready, so maybe next month I can work with Jennifer to do the official presentation, but I can give just kind of a general overview. So basically, it's Stop for Everyone, it's the law. So drivers, cyclists, pedestrians, wheelchair users, everyone. If someone is in a crosswalk, you must stop. So this is a responsibility that's shared by all road users. Everyone deserves to cross the street safely. So there's a couple of ordinances that are attached to this. So the traffic safety ordinance is 02532 to update the traffic code to improve protections for pedestrians, bicyclists, and vulnerable road users. And then City Council Resolution R 25-196 directs education, enforcement planning, and additional actions to support new safety laws. So this is all to protect vulnerable road users. So they use the acronym VRU to indicate what a vulnerable user is. So that again includes anybody, pedestrians, wheelchair users, people with strollers, cyclists, anybody who doesn't have the protection of a vehicle and is more likely to be hurt in a crash. So every corner is a crosswalk. So crosswalks may be marked or unmarked, striped or unstriped, signed or unsigned, or painted or unpainted. But the most important thing to know is that every corner should be treated as a crosswalk, whether it's painted or not. And if you see someone crossing, you should stop. Braking only takes a second, ending a life lasts forever. So we're just, again, encouraging folks, pay attention, stop well back so others can be prepared behind you to stop. Never pass a stop car at a crosswalk. If you're turning right, you always want to yield to the bike lane. If you're turning left or right, you want to yield to people in the crosswalk. And again, just every corner is a crosswalk. So use crosswalks when they are available, obey the signal, look left, right, and then left again, be visible, wear bright or reflective clothing, stay alert to traffic around you, be predictable in your behaviors, and make eye contact with driver. So this is for people who are crossing the street as VRUs or pedestrians or anybody not in a vehicle. So yeah, I think that, you know, like I said, we all know that we have some negative associations with traffic fatalities here. And so this is really kind of another effort to really create some public awareness and really have some education around what it means to respect every user, every person that's using the road. Does anybody have any questions about that?
You work with some of the schools and the drivers ed businesses and any response to this initiative. I know that had a discussion about a week ago, and somebody said you're not going to reach the young people with some of this stuff, you know, running red lights and so forth. And I think probably with crosswalks. Do you have any specific plans for reaching out to the younger drivers?
Yes.
Tell us about it.
Yes, so APS also has a Vision Zero kind of initiative that they do, and we are in conversations with APS leadership on how we can, in addition to you know, the walking school bus expansion that's happening throughout APS over the next 4 years, really make this available to our younger folks. So yes, that is being that conversation is being on how we can get
Okay. And do you have a card that you could?
yeah, my own, like my personal business card.
Your
My
business card.
I do, my business card.
Because I'd like to hear more about it because it's, Daryl Deloach, who does the public safety echo programs, he had, what he called a community hub meeting about a week ago. And, one of the things that we talked about was safety on the streets, particularly accidents that happen because somebody thinks they're gonna make the red light and they run and crash into somebody that would have the green light. And so, have you had any contact with Daryl about a presentation on this? I can't remember.
But as soon as it's ready, we'll be doing all of those, we'll be reaching out to all of the CPCs as well as the ECHO, the public safety. ECHO.
Okay,
So thank you for
wonderful.
that.
I will talk to him about it
Good
tomorrow.
reminder. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Wasn't there a specific provision for a minimum of 3 hours of driver education focused specifically on pedestrians as part of Senate Bill 73, which passed in the recent legislative session?
So my son actually just finished driver's ed not too long ago and they did cover all that. So, and they took it here, so should be in swing. Yeah, okay.
Adults need education too, because there are a lot of inconsistencies in the markings on the intersections.
Well, he does not like the bike lanes at all. He has a big issue with them, right?
I
Well,
didn't say that.
he does. We've had conversations.
Well, I've had people walk across in a crosswalk in front of me and never look up from their distraction. Never look up. And so, and they were adults, but drivers also, if we really want to make it absolutely safe for drivers and pedestrians and bicycle riders and scooter riders, we have to educate the whole gang and we have to put limits. What do you consider a moving vehicle? When does a bicycle no longer a bicycle? When it has an electric motor on it that takes it 40 miles an hour?
Wally, what do you think would be a good place to educate adults on this? Because there's really not a platform currently.
Well,
And
I have no idea, but that's a really huge problem.
I know.
Because
you've got-
we're trying to tell, people have been, automobile drivers are used to being on the road and getting to where they need to go. Now we're telling them, and we're telling them that it's been this way all along, any pedestrian has the right of way over a driver. So the only way we're gonna keep everybody safe is to reduce the speed limit to 10 miles an hour. Because from 40, I've had it, I know this is legal. I had a guy on a bike pull over in his bike lane. So now we have a car, a bicycle, and a right-hand turn lane for automobiles. And he did, and I heard it was legal at one of the meetings I went to, but he stopped. And he was an experienced bike rider because he kept his balance. He didn't ever put his feet down. But he stopped and he looked and he went against the red. And that's legal. But who knows that?
But where do you think is a good place to educate them? You
I have no-
can't just drop the speed
I
limit
don't
down
have
to
a
10.
clue.
Well, that would be something that'd be maybe a good brainstorming, bring to the next meeting so that we know how to proceed.
And I think this is.
See, I disagree with it, so
This-
somebody else could teach me. I'm not-
So this
I think you'd be a
campaign
great teacher.
is really meant to just create awareness for people to just be more aware. And we have ads going on locally on TV. We've got a bunch of social media going out. And then again, all of our partners that we work with in the community, including APS and some of the folks with the CPCs. So I think that we're off to a good start, but I hear what you're saying about,
I had
the
a,
education piece being really important.
I was in a
All of us.
residential area doing 25 miles an hour and I had a guy in an electric two-wheel scooter pass me. So at some point, that scooter should be considered a motor vehicle. And we're doing all this striping for them. We're putting green rectangles across intersections for them to follow. There are several green intersections with green rectangles that show the bike path across the intersection that are already so blackened from automobile tires that you can't hardly see them. So, I mean, there's problem
It's
after
easier
problem.
to see from outside of a vehicle, which is, I think, what they're meant for. It might be harder to see it from inside of a vehicle.
They're blackened from tires and it's the quality of the paint. So if we're gonna put paint markings and expect people to abide by them, they need to hold up.
I haven't seen any, but can you think of any specific intersections that they're already blocking? Because I have been seeing the green, but
Let me see, let me see if I.
I think he has a list for you later, maybe give you.
yes, okay, well, thank you for the
Yeah, go
questions.
on.
And then just a couple other just events that I wanted to share about. We are having a language access month of action on April 15th from 10 a.m. to noon at Civic Plaza. So this is all about how to access some of the or how to engage with LEP or limited English proficient constituents. And so this is for organizations to be able to come and learn about different resources available in the community. I've got some flyers here, so if anybody would like some more information about that, come see me. And then I wanted to just share the public meeting that was announced to address the renaming process of public assets that is being led by 4 different city councils as it relates to the Cesar Chavez business. So that's on Tuesday at 6 o'clock at the National Hispanic Cultural Center. If anybody wants to come and have a voice to lend to that, please join us. Do you want the other ones too?
Yes.
Isn't it for like any remaining public? And buildings or whatever structures? That's what I read it as.
Yeah, it's, I said that's my new. No, it prompted that conversation, I guess, maybe.
Doesn't just go back to bridge.
It's maybe what they're gonna talk about, we'll see. Anybody else want one of these flyers? All right, that's all I have, unless anybody has any other questions for me about. Yes.
Before we get into data, why we're talking about flyers, it's flyer season. I hope y'all grabbed this one. So we are doing a donation drop off this Saturday. We luckily have, the Greek life students at UNM are volunteering their time this Saturday. So they'll actually be helping all over the city, but we were lucky enough at Gateway Center to snag 25 of them this Saturday. So they're going to be working 2 shifts with us. So we're going to start drop offs at 9:30 a.m. You can pull under the overhang. There will be nice college students to help you unload your items and bring them in. And they're going to help us sort and get items ready to go to our different facilities. We are desperately in need of menswear, men's clothing. Guys, I need you to clean out your closet and bring in your clothes. So we still need shirts, but we are desperate for men's pants and belts if you have them. So if you have them, bring them our way. We are still taking women's clothing. I was joking with Sandra that I don't know, the women seem to be better about cleaning out their closets and bringing us their clothes. But we'll still take women's clothing. If you are interested in, you also always need new toiletries and new underwear. Always need new underwear. So
I think we're good at it because it gives us opportunity and space to like bring in new stuff.
listen, I was gonna admit that.
All gladly. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so we'll be doing that from 9:30 to 12:30. So we'll have vehicles pulling out, pulling under the overhang. We'll have the college students helping us unload. We're so thankful for them. We'll have tables set up in here, they'll be sorting materials, clothing and everything. And then, we will actually turn right around at Gateway Center. Regina, who you met a couple of months ago, who presented, her and her team will be getting ready for our, what we call a rummage sale. It's not a sale, we're not taking money. But they'll set up nice tables out here for all of our tenants, so not even, let me start that sentence over. They'll be setting up tables so that, our city services clients and our tenant patients and clients will have the opportunity to come shop for new spring and summer clothing. So it's a great way for us to help the hospital patients and those patients that are in Turquoise Lodge as well. So it's a lot of fun.
Is that gonna be inside?
Yeah, just out here on the side. That's why you see half the chairs missing. If you thought someone had wandered away with them, no, we're just storing them so we can have an event. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. So if you could bring us items, Robert.
And just a quick thank you. So the city's fantastic with Jen and her team, Doug's team, Flor's team. We have, especially my clients, come from the hospital. So, you know, when I was in the Gateway Women's, you'd have people evicted and they're coming with suitcases full of clothing. But if you go to the hospital, you're not packing a bag, and they will literally come in, you know, a t-shirt and all sweats, and that's it. And we have a little donations closet, and I'll go in and try to get what I can, but it goes fairly quickly since we don't have specific sizes. I also send an email or a text to one of Jen's team, and usually that afternoon I'll hear the little wagon coming, and they'll be like, we have this, and it's not just 2 t-shirts, it's a stack. And it's just, it's humbling to see how quickly it's done and the quality. It isn't like moth-eaten stuff. It's fantastic. And the clients love it, and it really means something to them. We did I had my team come down with the clients last year for the winter sale, for lack of a better term, and they just absolutely loved it. And just the quality of the clothing. They're not just accepting junk. So what you know, they spend a lot of time making sure these are things that we would wear, and the clients love it. So we appreciate it so much. Please know that.
No, thank you. If you have any young people in your life too, we are opening Gateway Young Adults. We just got our CEO certificate of occupancy this week. YDI is moving their staffing and all the computer set up, and we open for clients next Monday. So if you have any young people in your life, encourage them to clean out their closet too. It's love to have their items. Mike.
You said these are things that we would wear. And actually, what I'm thinking about is stuff that I won't wear. Is, when I worked at Sandia, I had a sports jacket and I'd wear a long sleeve shirt and then jeans. But so would dress wear be something that's appropriate or needed?
Well, that's the kind of thing that's more likely for the women or for the men's facility. And I say that because the city has an engagement center upstairs. In it, the other Jennifer, set up a beautiful closet for women's like interview clothes. Because the whole point is like get income, get back on your feet, but you have to present yourself nicely when you go to an interview. And so that's kind of set aside. So I have some blazers and things that I've kind of put aside, but it's more for when I deal with Kat Sotelo, who works with Job Connect for heading home. I'll let her have that stuff because a lot of our patients, I hate to say it, they're never going to work again. So t-shirts, nice sweaters, things like that will suffice. Yeah, things that are comfortable. Whereas the work stuff might be better suited to, and Jen's team kind of manages that well to go to the men's shelter for the person who will be interviewing, as opposed to someone who's just going to be, for lack of a better term to say.
So should I hold on to some of this?
Oh, but they'll sort it out. Anything you
We'll
can
take
do
it
with
and
it.
sort it. So we definitely have interview clothing that we bring.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. And just in related to that, I am trying to get a new Facebook public group started underway called Albuquerque Downsizing Collaborative, and part of the plan is to help folks who think they've got too much stuff in their closet, and what do they do with it? And so I will keep this in mind to connect and say, well, I know folks who can get it to the right people, whether it's
Yeah, when you get that set up, if you don't mind, let's talk, because we have it on our website, we'll take donations by appointment. So we'll always take donations by appointment. This was just a good way because we had lots of hands that were gonna help us. So we've been talking about doing this, but we couldn't figure out how to mobilize volunteers. And so UNM did it for us. So the other plug I'll do is if you're interested, you know, when you do your grocery order, if you'll just throw a pack of underwear or a pack of toothbrushes in there, you can get a pack of like 6 from Walmart for $1. If you'll just do that, and then you could always bring it to us at the meetings. Janet always does. I'm sorry, Janet, we put the spotlight on you.
There's some stuff out there.
She always brings me stuff. So that's a way to do it too. If you don't have time to clean out your closet. My mom, my cute little mom does it. She does her Walmart order every week. They live in Farmington, so every time she brings me a bag of underwear and bras, toothpaste, and so it's kind of awesome. So if you'd rather do that, that's a way that you can help out as well. Okay, any other questions about the donation drive? Let's go into data. You guys have a preference where we start first? No. Okay, I'm gonna put Flora on the spot. We're gonna start with gateway programs.
That's one of the things, you know, why when we're saying men over women, if you look at the Gateway West, we have, you know, 952 people, what they served this last month in February. 673 of those were men, 249 were women. So that's, you know, we serve a lot more men than we do women, so it's a big reason for the need for men's clothes. But we had served a total of 1,991 people last month, and many more stays than that because in like Gateway West, we have people who stay multiple times, and we also have people in first responders who stay more than one time. So we did a great job with placing people this past month. 12 exited from, 8 exited to rentals from Gateway Family, which was really cool, 8 out of 12. And you flip the page, our wonderful Robert and his team did a good job as well. We had people who exited to emergency shelters, hotels, and rentals, and families. So out of that 14, we have a lot of good exits there. And women's, we had 72 exits. Quite a few of those were rentals, which is really great. And then the men's is on the page. There were 66 exits there, 15 to rentals, and then some that a lot of them did end up back 9 places for habitation. But our providers are doing a great job with keeping their facilities full and doing the best they can with the work that's in front of them. So that's the data. Anybody have any questions on what we're doing here? What we have?
Just one for, is it possible to extrapolate, particularly for Gateway West, how many beds might have been empty, right? or bed nights, I guess, over the course of a month were empty?
Yes, not from this, but I do have that. We're starting to get that information. As a matter of fact, I was just working on that. We're going to be gathering that for comes, let's see, so next month we'll have a full month of that data, so that in May I'll be able, I can include that.
Yeah, one of the pieces of work that for us far that we're with on top of everything else that we've been doing is, the state, gave us, not funding, but they hired a consultant on their side to do some work on the state side, and what they did is they lent that consultant group to us, and so Robert knows, because he's been getting a lot of emails from me.
Yes.
And Laura, we work with how our data systems are gathering data, and we've been looking at how each of our providers are gathering data, and so now we have a broader picture of what's happening, but it's also allowing us to go into the details to see specific things like what you're asking about, James. So, hopefully within the next month or two, we'll really see the outcome of that work that everyone's been putting in. I want to talk a little bit about the men's 15 clients to housing 13 on vouchers. Just a reminder that they've only been open since October. And I know that 22 exits to places not meant for habitation, it's disheartening. But see, Robert, I'm gonna put you on the spot. But sometimes we need to understand that maybe the first time through the housing navigation program isn't going to necessarily work for people. And so depending on how they exit, as long as they are not doing it in a violent way or causing problems, there's always an opportunity for them to come back when that bed opens back up on the list. So we keep showing up for people, even if they decide that the program's too overwhelming, there's too many rules, there's too many people around, the lights are too bright. We have that instance, which I love, and it's not really funny. For someone experiencing that, it can be completely overwhelming. But I just want to encourage us all to keep looking at the work and being positive about it. Like I said, 15 exits to housing since October when we only have 92 beds. And a reminder that we had to fill those beds at a pace. We didn't just open our doors on the first day and 92 people came in. It was a lot of work to get everyone, making sure that they're appropriate placement, getting them settled, all the things. So I just want to give a shout out to our operators, Robert's hard work. I'm so grateful he's been with us for so long in so many ways. But yeah, I think, we just keep grinding at the work. 15 people at a time is going to make a difference. So any questions on the data you're looking at, Jen?
Yeah, just a quick question, since the categories are a little different between the women's and men's. So is the no exit interview completed equivalent to data not collected?
Yes. Yeah, no, sometimes they leave without an interview, as Robert says. And so they'll, and so one of the options in the system is, just data not collection. And then sometimes they'll have, what was the other one you said?
On the men's, it's listed as no exit interview.
No exit interview, yeah, and so that's another one of the options. So it just depends on which one they choose. Yeah, and sometimes I'll combine them into data not collected if I have a lot of like this one. I can't fit everything on the page if I put all the different ones, and they're more or less the same thing. We don't have the data.
Thank you. Any other questions on this data set?
But I would just like to reinforce what you were saying earlier. I had an opportunity to sort of be part of a group that was toured through the care center, the county's care center. They have a residential recovery wing, and I hadn't heard it before, but they were saying exactly the same thing. They let people cycle through multiple times, but then eventually it takes them. they make time to do it, so I think it's like, you plug it in until you get the result. And I was unaware of that before, but that was pretty impressive to hear.
I can add into that as well, you know, with sheriff's office, there's only a couple of us case managers, but, well, there's 3 of us right now. But same thing, we'll have people reach out to us or, you know, we'll get, we call them consumers. We'll get them and then lose contact with them, you know, they'll, like, maybe they want some treatment, maybe not, they're not sure. And then they remember though, like we were a safe person that would listen and talk to them. And then when they're ready, they reach back out and Care Campus is great. I mean, Gateway is great as well, but especially for the detox, like when they're ready, we'll meet them there or even transport them if needed and they get in and sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not ready, but then again, they're ready again, we'll, you know, support them in getting back. So and we've seen some success with it, so.
I heard that too from the woman who runs the coordinated entry system, the coalition and homelessness, and the conversation came up about, well, they should, not the housing first model, they should be ready to, follow rules and she said people will say no because they're so used to failing at this point that they say, I'll just opt out because I'm not going to be able to do that. But sometimes it takes that second, third time to say, yeah, I can do this. So, yeah.
And they're used to the system failing them as well. It's hard for us professionals to navigate, let alone people who don't have the coping skills, who don't have the mental health support, the family support, they have trauma, all of that. Yeah, it's a lot that people face. So it's always great. We worked with a coalition on a woman who I met, I think about 2 years ago, and over the course of a couple of years, we were able to build trust with her, and she's housed. So but it took a long time. So, but when they're ready, it's great.
There's a story that my boss tells that really sticks with me. He would tell this as we were touring people through medical sobering as we were getting ready to open it. We were talking about the peer mentors, how important they are, and in the work that we do, ACS has peer mentors as well. But he said, people don't get upset with cancer patients when they relapse. No one says to them, you weren't working hard enough, you didn't have enough willpower. And he says substance use disorder is the same thing. We shouldn't get mad at people when they fail. And back to your point, like people opting out of the system of just being there, for when the time is right, when they reach the point where it's gonna stick. So, yeah, so I appreciate all you workers who are in the field doing it day to day. Makes a difference. Okay, if we're done with Gateway programs, Laura, I'm going to turn it over to you. Turn over to LT. So as far as the Gateway, we've had our CID has been helping out in the area. And their stats, they had I want to say they had in the last 2 weeks almost 300 so contacts with folks. They had probably about over 500 contacts with folks, probably more than that actually, because they had close to 200 citations. So they've been out there as well. I don't know if you all have seen them. Sometimes they're in plainclothes and marked up, and they're making community contacts and reaching out to folks. So that's something that we're working on. I've also been working with Major Nelson, and we're trying to find some more resources to help the Gibson Public Safety District. So if you guys have any ideas, you guys are seeing anything that's concerned, we're working with a lot of different resources, especially with the walking school bus and stuff like that. So that has been great, but we're still working on it.
work in progress. As far as our statistics have been slightly going up. But with the winter time and the increase in population, I mean, it's to be expected. And especially this is the first season that everything's kind of been opened up. And so it was kind of unexpected this year. Next year, we'll be better prepared for it. Because we'll know what to expect a little bit more. So hopefully next season we'll get a little bit more out ahead of it. As our proactive work, like I said, we have our CID out here as long as our each month we have 2 to 3 squads that are focusing on the Gibson Public Safety District, and they're looking at all areas of life, criminal, not criminal, anything that they can help with. Could be citing vehicles, it could be requesting ACS for offering resources. We're also working with code enforcement with some problem properties that we're working on in the area. So we're just trying to support the gateway in any way we can. If you guys are seeing anything specific though, any specific concerns, of course you're welcome to tell me, but please call about them. If it's a 311 issue, call 311, 242 cops, 911. That way you can get sent to whoever should be the responding party, and that way we have record of it, and then that way it makes it easier when we're trying to allocate resources. Because if we don't show the numbers, it's hard for me to fight for the resources because they're not showing that we need them. So I know sometimes it's frustrating calling about the same issues over and over again, but please do. Even if it takes us a little while to respond, because we do have to respond to the violent issues first. Please again, call on whatever issues you need so that we can allocate the resources correctly. Does anybody have any specific questions for me?
Just a clarification on the comparative stats. Each of those blocks is labeled the same. Should that be citywide?
So what
Gibson Public Safety and Gateway half mile, or?
We have a new tech person, and so I'm not sure exactly how they're labeled. I was asking Laura about that earlier.
So the top boxes should be the citywide, middle is public safety district, and then bottom is the half mile.
I'll be asking her the next
So we
one
have some
to label them a
copies.
little bit better.
They came out differently, and so I have some copies that actually have those labeled. And
Okay, I'm all.
I was like, I was almost sitting here noticing it because I was looking at going, wait a minute, the ones I saw earlier.
I was looking at some of them and I was like,
So I have some.
what was the third one?
Numbers
Half
are,
mile.
numbers are the same, right?
Yeah, it's just didn't have the title.
Yeah,
So I had a question. The other day I was driving up Central and I was up around probably Virginia, Vermont area, and I saw solid waste clearing the street, clearing the side streets. And it looked like APD was there. There was lots of activity. And I thought that stuff had stopped. I didn't think that solid waste could just go in and clear a street.
so it's not just clearing streets. It's a whole process. So they can't block sidewalks, they can't be erecting structures. There's certain laws they still have to follow. A lot of the times the property is abandoned and no one's there. So if somebody's there, they give them the opportunity to not be obstructing traffic, to not be obstructing the sidewalks. If no one's there, then the property, if no one's cleaning it.
Yeah, but I saw the little trucks, the little solid waste.
Yeah,
And those are used to take people's belongings.
so
So they're
That's
not
not-
throwing people in there, they're
that's
throwing
not-
belongings.
that's not gonna be something I deal with specific, so I can't talk about each incident and each location they go to. But they don't just go to somebody and they take their property and throw it away. That's
But
not,
that's what I'm wondering.
yes, no, they don't do
That's
that.
kind of what it looked like.
And that's what I was gathering, but no, they do not do that. So they are taking away property, it's because it's been abandoned. Because even if we arrest folks, then they're given the opportunity to store their property, so it's not just thrown away. So but a lot of the property or a lot of the items you see about the city, it's been abandoned. And so they're there to clean up abandoned property. But yes, anytime that somebody is arrested or they can't take their property, the opportunity to get the property stored is available. So we don't just take people's stuff. Yeah, no, you're good.
I think I had heard it's like usually the day before that people go.
Yeah, they have to give 24 notice.
The
Yes.
sheriff's office does something similar like in the Bosque. And then if the people want, they can either move their things, because of the fire hazard, especially in that area. They can move their things. If they want services, they'll call us and have us come out and talk with them.
Yes, and so that's why you see so many people, because you have police dealing with criminals, ACS dealing with resources, waste management or HHH dealing with properties and stuff like that. So we're care of everybody.
Up here where it says last month and then previous month, is last month February?
Which page, I'm sorry?
On the comparative stats? Or is it? Oh,
How does the date work? Because it says 20 February in the right corner.
I don't want to make them looking at the same numbers as you do.
Yeah, probably February, but the date is 26th of March.
Okay, so they have actually different. The second one he handed out is for the February, and the first one that I got handed was for March. So they're different months.
That might be on me. I think we got two files. I tried to delete the older one and I may not have deleted the older one, so.
So
I
then,
apologize.
I'll talk to Maya and make sure maybe we can get them labeled a little bit better, because
because
looking
like
at the
if
minimum.
last month is February and then previous month is January. This March, we're in March, right? So
Yes.
let's have the statistics for March.
No.
Until next. Okay.
She might have them through the 20th. It's already the 26th.
They'll just do full months though. They don't-
Oh, it says 26th.
So they don't usually do
It must be the day she's printed.
Yeah.
So for next month, we'll try to get them a little bit labeled, but better for y'all, because it is quite confusing. Any other questions?
Okay, let's jump over to 311 calls.
Oh, I think I said, yeah.
We're actually.
Yeah.
Okay, any questions on 311 calls?
I got a question.
Yes.
I thought at one of the meetings, it was discussed that 311 didn't really go anywhere. So in other words, it went somewhere, but it was kind of like way less priority in dealing with it. So in other words, you wanted to go through two cops for 911, but 311 basically
So
was worse than trying to email someone.
No. It depends what you have going on. So 911 is for emergencies, right? So somebody's in trouble, something violent, right?
Yeah.
So 242 cops is something that you might want to report on. And it could be anything from domestic violence that's happened 5 days ago.
Right.
And they just want to report now, to somebody wanting to report a vandalism, auto burglary or something like that. 311 is pretty much, it could be graffiti referrals, it could be anything with code, it can be any like unsheltered issues, it can be all these things. And the nice thing with 311 is you can also do it on your app. So it makes it really easy, and all those are tracked as well. So 311s don't not go anywhere.
No, I don't mean to say it doesn't go anywhere. It does go, but
It
it's like way low priority.
Well, the easiest way to think of it, if you need a person dispatched to it, whether that's
Right,
APD, ACS, or fire,
right.
that's gonna be a 911 or 242 cops, depending on the urgency. Fire is always gonna be 911, and then depending on the urgency, APD or ACS or dispatch.
And if you use the app, you can pick your category. You
Okay,
can choose your category, whether it's an encampment or it's just litter or something more urgent. So you can pick.
So then the 311, that does generate an email to one or more departments. A lot of people have been lately using 311 for things that should have been 911. For instance, I got one yesterday that was a possible dead body. Complete with the picture. Okay, sent into 311. So with APD, there are two people that look at those emails. One of them is me, that's everything but abandoned vehicle, and then we have abandoned vehicle. ACS is very fortunate, they have people checking those all the time, so they can jump on those a little bit more. But for the most part, if it can wait a few days, you can submit it through 311. If you need a body dispatch to check on that, 911 or 242 cops.
Because 311 does not dispatch. It helps.
Right.
To memorize it, but for me, at least.
But they do send it to the right department.
They dispatch.
Yes, and they can send it to multiple departments.
And then we are held accountable to how quickly we answer those 311 calls. So we get reports every week that tells us how many 311 tickets are outstanding. And then different departments get called out. You do not want to be called out for not answering your 311 ticket. So, yeah.
I had this is for the officers.
Yes.
I had noticed something on Nextdoor a few days ago about somebody, a neighborhood, several neighbors hearing marbles being shot over their houses, into their yards and stuff like that, marbles. Somebody said, oh, report it to 311 or something. I said, somebody could be seriously hurt with a marble flying through the air. And I said, call 911.
still falls under propulsion of missiles.
Say again?
Propulsion of missiles is what that falls under, same like with shooting a bow or something like that.
I was thinking the same.
So, yeah, call 242 cops, 911. Yeah, and then we can figure it out. Obviously, I don't think that would show up on ShotSpotter. It depends what they're using to launch it. What
I
they're
can ask about that, but
So
so it's propulsion
of
of,
missiles. I know it sounds kind of a big thing, but yeah, like shooting a bow, a whole bunch of things fall underneath that. I'm sorry?
Marble is still deadly. If
Yeah.
you get to
It is. Should I fall under that? So.
On here, under the summary where it says legal related concerns increased to 50 cases.
Do you know where it falls under that?
I do not. I am happy to follow up with Carrie, who's the 311 director, and see what she has to say about that.
It's probably gonna be needle pickups.
People call
It's just weird that it says needle related. Yeah, it's needle pickup.
Because I know Natalie and I, when we do our walks, we.
Yeah, we like to go
We're like the
needles
needle
on everything
queens.
else. Like we're like,
I love that.
so but if you did 311, then That would
So I'm
be,
wondering if we should take a picture of the bottle of needles before we turn it into you.
we do have
I
we have
did.
pictures of it.
Yeah, we do, because we got a lot off that lot on Zoom in Florida. That one that they had that fire.
So I just found out the other day that there's actually a van that drives around the area. I gotta figure out the information, but supposedly there's a van that distributes clean needles.
Oh, so they just hand them out.
Yeah, so they don't even have to go anywhere. They just hand them out in the neighborhood. Because we've had a couple issues in that area as well as the streets, the state streets. And I was just advised just the other day that there's a van that goes and distributes clean needles. So I'm trying to get more information on that.
So it's not like, hey, give me your dirty needle, here's a clean.
That's how it should.
It should be, but I don't.
State law.
Do that. It is.
So what they're doing is breaking the law.
Maybe.
Oh, no, we don't know that.
No, we don't know. I don't have any information on it because I just got notified it.
I'm gonna.
So, I'm gonna be looking into that a little bit more.
Because that's that to me is defeating the purpose
Yes.
of what we're trying to do in keeping our alleys in such.
And that was,
clean-
that was my,
Especially now for the summer, right? The kids.
that was one of my concerns that I was talking about in the meeting and somebody that was in a different department came up to me and informed me of this. So now I just started looking into it.
Would you be able to let me know?
I don't see why not.
If you find out information, can you update us next meeting?
Yes,
Oh, yeah, that'd be great too.
so I was like, we're trying so hard.
I know,
Can you do it in a different area? Like I understand the importance of clean needles. I get it, but getting them delivered into areas. Specific areas.
Because I mean, at least if they had to walk up to a door to get a clean needle, they could have that big red thing there and they could just dump their own.
So and I assumed that the van would have one, but again,
Yeah.
I just learned about this possibility. I don't even know if it's for sure.
For sure.
But that would make sense with some of the ongoing problems that we are seeing after with all the efforts that we're putting in.
Is the van marked?
It sounded like it wasn't marked.
Does it have a license plate?
She didn't have anything for me yet, so I asked a couple questions, so the lady's supposed to be trying to give me some information.
Oh, well, that'll be good to know.
So yes, I was like,
Okay,
so yes, and I don't, yeah, so I'll bring some new information next meeting on that. I was a little frustrated with that.
Okay, let's switch over and talk about winter overflow shelter. I invited ACS to be a part of this conversation because we've been partnering through this project.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Walter Adams. I'm the Deputy Director of our Build Operations over Albuquerque, Navy Safety. Everett Bustamante with you. I'm Chris Starry. I'm the Associate Director.
Thank you guys for being here. I'm happy to see you. Okay, so winter overflow shelter, we changed it from what we did last year, so it's just. So as we've gone through renovations at Gateway West, we actually just completed our last dorm within the last week or so. So all of our dorm renovations are complete at Gateway West. We have a couple of smaller projects. We have a couple of grant donations that are going to be helping us with dog runs and pet spaces and some more shade structure out there. But as far as actual dorm renovations, brand new beds, brand new flooring, restroom, shower upgrades. We now have a rec room. We are getting laundry facilities put in spaces where we can do more case management and more community building out there. We mentioned to y'all last summer as more of our new dorms were coming online that we saw higher numbers throughout the summer than what we had expected to see, what we've seen previously in the past. Those numbers continued to stay high in the fall. And as we got to colder winter, our numbers stayed full. So our numbers we consider full out there is about 660. We can surge to 713 with a cost, additional costs. As all the data all the things that we've talked about before, our men's numbers are always really high. We actually did some rearranging of dorms over the winter. We consolidated women's dorms so that we could open up more beds for men. We still continue to see our men's beds fill. So starting the night before Thanksgiving, I don't remember the date, all I just remember is the night before Thanksgiving. We opened up our first overflow space here at Gateway Center, and that was building 11 on the first floor. We got it prepared with 35 cots. We ran it with temp employees with oversight from me and my team. And we started seeing clients that night, and we're seeing clients every night. We will continue until next Tuesday. Tuesday will be our last night of running emergency overflow.
Say that again.
Tuesday night will be our last night to run emergency overflow.
It's about to ask.
Yeah, so the 31st will be the last night. I'll talk a little bit more about the data and our planning of shutting that down and how we're handling that. But Walter, I'm going to put you on the spot. Can you talk a little bit about the winter transfer program? You guys operate that policies?
Absolutely. So for the past 3 years, we've ran an emergency overnight every. That's something, year one, we launched a little bit later. It was probably like December, January, when we began the launching on a limited capacity. In a limited capacity kind of way. Last year, we launched November 1st. We ran it through March 31st. And this year, again, we launched November 1st and we ran it. We're running into March 31st. That'll be our last one. Kind of to put it into perspective, kind of the numbers in the transition over the last 3 years. Last year, we transported over 4,000 people to shelter. And we only operate that 8 p.m. to 7 p.m. To make sure that we're cautious about, 311 systems, emergency systems to 242 cops and 911. We run that on a dedicated line that's answered by our staff. They answer that phone and they coordinate pickup and drop offs at shelter locations. So last year we did about 4,000. This year we're going to hit 6,000 transports in that short amount of time to emergency shelters. Credit to Curtis and the team because they're constantly on the phone all day and all night through 8 p.m. From 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. constantly dealing with anything that might come up in regard to that shelter transportation and coordination and everything. We coordinated closely in terms of a big piece of that is we're the service connector, right? We're getting these calls, we're taking them and we're connecting people to shelters. But we coordinate closely with Jennifer and her team at Triple H and the shelters and the shelter staff to make that connection and drop those individuals. Every transport that we do is a transport with a warm handout to those shelters.
And Walter's team transports to multiple shelters across the city, so it's not just the city sites. And so to give you an idea, you said how many transports this year? I'm sorry.
We'll hit 6,000.
You'll hit 6,000.
Yeah.
So we're still calculating our numbers of how many people we saw here for emergency sheltering, but I think we will have seen about 3,000 individuals. So that tells you that only about half of them are coming here. Walter's team is still doing transports out to Gateway West. So it is a nightly scheduling strategy meeting, calls of finding out where we have beds available of where we can take people. We did institute for the first time a curfew at Gateway West. We've never had a curfew before. Our programs here absolutely have curfews. They have had curfews since day one. But this is the first time we instituted a curfew at Gateway West because we needed to have clear numbers for our field teams to know what beds we had available at West. So for this year, you had to be on property by 9 p.m. You had to be at your bed by 9:30 to guarantee that you kept it that night. Our last bus in from town usually comes in at about 8:30, but we do have individuals that work and do have transportation to the shelter. So those individuals just had to check in with our staff and make sure everyone's working tonight, please don't give my bed away. But if they were finding rides in past 10 PM and weren't calling ahead, they would not have a bed because we would release those numbers to Walter's team to say, we have 50 beds available tonight. 30 of them are women's beds, 20 of them are only men's beds. And so it was definitely a game of chess to make sure that we got locations. We still operated first responders receiving area. And then we would open overflow here at 9 PM. So when we talk about that 3,000 number, those are duplicated numbers, meaning I'm gonna pick on Laura. I might see Laura 10 times over those months. I'm gonna count her each time she walks through our door. When they came here, we had hot chocolates, we had soups, trying to get them warmed up from being out in the cold. They were given a cot with clean, fresh linens, and the expectation was, the way I always couch is like, welcome to our sleeping center. We hope you enjoy your sleep. Let me get you something to warm up, and then I'm gonna get you really comfy on this cot. And so we really set expectations that they were here to sleep. We teamed up with APD, so thank you APD for letting us use your PSAs. ACS lent us their vans. So we would do transport out in the morning. So we would make runs to Gateway West because we knew the first buses of the morning had left west, so we knew we had beds available. We would run to day shelters like Rocket Noonday where they could get meals and showers. And then we would refer to other services. What we did differently this year, last year we only ran emergency sheltering for about 3 weeks. We literally based it on Gateway West was full, the weather was 32 or below. It was a good learning experience. I think it was hard on the ACS teams. It was definitely hard on the HHH teams because we were the ones staffing those graveyard shifts. So Doug and I would come in a little blurry-eyed at about midnight to open emergency sheltering. We would work through 8 o'clock in the morning. We'd go home and sleep for a couple hours, and we'd have to be back to do our day job. I am proud of that work because I know we absolutely saved lives last year. If you remember how cold we got for about 3 weeks last year, it was an 11-year low. So this year we said we can't do that anymore. I don't do overnights anymore. I barely did it as a college student. So we were able to pull money from contracts that were not being spent down as quickly as they should have been. So we knew there were going to be extra money in the contracts. And so we hired temp staff, we got them ready to go. And then we just took on-call shifts, which is still a little hard. It's hard to get a call. Walter does this all the time. I know he's laughing at me. Look at that face. I always try to mom Walter. I'm like, Walter, when's the last time you slept? Because sometimes we'd be on the phone at 2 or 3 a.m. and Walter just sounds like he just slept 8 hours. We'd be like, good morning, Jennifer. And he's like, huh? So I do think the work was important. I do think we saved lives again this year. So we will look at the data from this year. We will look about what we're going to do differently next year. We're always going to do it differently year to year, depending on how the population changes and what we're learning. We identified this year what we call, one of our partners calls them friendly faces. And I thought that was a much better term than frequent flyers. So we identified our friendly faces. We identified approximately 25 that we continually saw over the months. And so we worked with our temp employees to start engaging them for services. So I'll give you some stats on that. Keep in mind, these are clients that do not usually seek out services. And Walter, Jeffrey, you all can tell me you're more in the field than I am. When we see winter overflow clients, these are clients who do not usually accept any services. They do not come in unless it is bitterly cold. And so you're talking about more high acute individuals. You're talking about some of the shifts I did work just to get the temp employees up and running. was a little bit heartbreaking. These are some of the sickest people I've ever seen, just mentally sick and physically sick. And so this is not a conversation where I have with Flora, who's, healthy and her belly's full and she's warm. And I'm like, Flora, come take services. And Flora like, yeah, I'm gonna take services. So we worked really hard. So we had 11 decline services. People who declined did so an average of 2.23 times. We had one person decline services 9 times. 2 accepted services to Gateway West, 1 accepted services to Turquoise Lodge. That's what I'm really excited about. 2 accepted services to First Nations, 2 accepted services to Empower Health Services. And then we had some that had been identified who we have not seen yet again. The reasons that we heard for declining services often included that the weather was getting better and they wanted to stay outside. And that they wanted to be with their friends. So they are building community out there. So that was one of the ways that we tried to engage them, is if we could get services for the group, would they be willing to go? It was hard because they didn't come in to overflow as a group necessarily. And so sometimes they would say, yeah, I'll get my friends to come tonight, and then wouldn't see them again. So we've seen about 1/5 accept services. Again, the numbers feel small. But it was different than what we did last year. Last year for 3 weeks, we were on emergency mode and did not have resources to say, we're going to focus on this specific group. So we changed the way that we did that this year. My hope is for next season, we will start that from the get-go, which means that we're going to have to plan our budget differently than what we've done in the past. And we're going to have to engage our partners that run our services here differently than we have done in the past. Anything to that?
One thing I think I'll add to that is, you made a good point, Jennifer, is when we say we transported 6,000, that's not unduplicated. It might be the same people several times over the same calls. And like Jennifer said, some of those people are people that normally wouldn't seek shelter, and now they are seeking shelter, which to us is an opportunity that we can connect to services in some type of way, whether that's through the shelter or connection elsewhere. Like that's an opportunity that we can potentially capitalize on. Again, shout out Dave. Last year, like Jennifer said, like we were moving pieces here and there to get that shelter, and her team has been great. But shout out to my team, because they made it super easy for me. That's probably why I could answer the call. I had the phone out super bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, because these guys took the brunt of it. Curtis and our field operations, who really, when we launched this back in November, like she just took, her name's not $1 million, but like she just took total ownership of it. And like she's the one monitoring those teams every day, 7 days a week, she's monitoring those teams. And these guys are in close communication of how we evolve and how do we get people to Gateway West, or if there's not room at this shelter, take them to this other shelter. They really coordinated that. So I know that they were in close communication with all the shelters, getting capacity limits and where people were at. So we were able to get that information to the team, saying we were to take people and what they were doing. The only last thing I'll mention this year, on 2 sides, is one, what we did is a lot of proactive outreach as well. So we knew those temperatures were going to drop. Even outside of those temperatures, we found locations that there was people unsheltered people on locations. We were doing proactive. We weren't just call based. We were shopping the same day, wanting to go to a shelter, taking people to shelters. In addition to that, I think we identified that there's the use of services. They're using places, whether it's hospitals, to stay warm, and we wanted to really free up the ERs and stuff. Proactive outreach in those areas as well. So this year we operated a little bit different. We learned a lot this year than we did the previous 2 years. That we're probably like for her team, we're gonna probably change things up, so we're gonna upgrade like this again next year.
Question.
Not a question, but well, yeah, we'll follow with a question. Last month, we had the owner of Mr. B's Paint and Body Shop sort of wrapped up at the end, and so I went over and visited that area a couple of days through the past month, and just to see what was happening about the times that it was starting. So that's why I wanted to know when the overflow shelter was closing. Did APD or ACS do any follow-up in the days, weeks after our last gateway meeting to see what the
Yes.
situation was like?
Yes, so my Sergeant Keeling, who's my acting right now, he was in last month's meeting. He went there multiple times, he patrolled the area on foot. He dealt with the individuals, he issued criminal trespasses. Mr. B, the subjects are still coming back, it's still kind of an ongoing issue, but yes, it's something that we're continuously working on. And there was follow-up on that.
So I was going to see if you considered having that same sort of a presence as people came out of the shelter in the morning. I sat over in the parking lot, one of your officers finally came over and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm just observing because of the complaint that was made." But
so that is actually something, when I mentioned earlier, that I'm working with Major Nelson to try to get some more resources here, because that's one of our main complaints. That is something that we're working on, getting the additional resources, so that we give more folks that same attention. So that is something we're aware of and something that we are currently working on getting the resources.
it's something to plan for
Yes,
next year.
because the problem that we're having right now is I can't always dedicate my officers, because they're gonna get dispatched to the violent crimes that are happening first. Those get dispatched first, so I can't say that they'll always be in a certain area, especially in the morning time. When seems to be our biggest issue. So, but I am working on getting us additional resources to address that issue.
Something just to keep put into the plan
Oh, yeah,
for next year.
Well, we don't wanna wait till next year, we're working on it now. That way next year it's already done, so. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah, we'll continue to add resources and services as we learn every year. So the PSAs were new this year. That was a huge help transporting off campus, utilizing ACS's vehicles. They have magic vehicles that just all of a sudden show up. So it's nice of them to share. Thank you for sharing. And then we did use Metro Security as well. So we had our regular campus security with Allied, but then we brought Metro Security officers on campus as well during that time. So we added additional services this year, and we'll be able to build on that. And Metro Security has been helping in the area as well. What you want to talk about is reconnecting care back partnership with the city on the IDs.
I would, yeah, so we can have to share that. So couple of things. One that I missed is, the gentleman mentioned kind of like how to address some of the people that are now, right? You just know that like outside of our emergency overnight shelter transportation and our response that we're doing, that we're actually needed to go out. I'll say is like over the last year, we've been able to do some operational changes, and additional stuff that we brought on, get back to that proactive nature of response. And we've been proactively in this area. We're a neighbor, we're down the street too, right? Catherine and San Mateo. But we're proactively in this area, providing outreach. Our Connect to Care events is one of the areas that we've evolved over the last couple of years, to bring services to people in high needs areas where we're noticing it's really meeting the needs of individuals, right? Like we're not gonna just say, hey, there's this resource, go get it. We can set you an appointment, go at 8, But it's really meeting people where they're at, like how many people are gonna keep track of time to go to an appointment that's a week away. So what we have done is we've launched what we call our ACS Connected Care. We partner with UNM Street Medicine. We also partner with the New Mexico Veterans Immigration Center internally, just to show kind of the depth of our responders. We partner with the violence intervention program that has core responders, traumatic events, working on domestic violence victims, human trafficking victims, our opiate education prevention, which are peer specialists who are lived experience that are doing opiate outreach, education, prevention, and we're directly connecting people to treatment services straight from the connected care event. But we go, the last couple that we had one off here at Francis off of Zuni, Central in Vermont. I know that was mentioned, Central in Vermont, we just had one. We've had one at Adams Market right there on Pennsylvania. And we're planning some additional ones up and down Central. Again, those are the high populated area. Most recently is we partnered with the motor vehicle department. So there a lot of people will mention that IEDs are a huge barrier to accessing services, housing, things like that. We just partner with the motor vehicle department. This is our second event with the motor vehicle department. Our first event was a couple months ago at Adams Market. And we issued 20, I think it was 22 IDs on site. And that's not an affidavit, which we were already doing before, providing an affidavit, and they were going down an MVD, they're actually issuing an ID on site. This last one we held off of Zoom at Francis House. They issued 42 IDs on site, and that was their second partnership. So there's a lot of service connection out there, and also transport and connection of services directly from those connected care events, and we're having them a couple of times.
The very issue came up in today's ECHO meeting, about IDs and so forth. So I'd like to, if you have a comment, I'd like to get in touch with you and maybe connect. The presentation today was by the clinical director for HopeWorks. And so the whole issue of lost IDs, birth certificates, driver's licenses, etc., was of conversation today, and so it'd be nice to hear more about that. I did hear about that in the past month, but it'd be nice to know some more.
And on there with our UNM Street Medicine, we're finding people that are sometimes we found a couple people that like if their medical needs weren't addressed immediately, that there was potential fatality. Not only that, we also almost connect care events. We have a psychiatrist. So any mental health needs or anything that are they're able to assess and actually be able to assess on site. So that's been a huge step for us, and a lot of ways that we're making a lot of connections.
Can I ask you a question? I think we've met before because we're with this, I think Jen, right, my coworker. Okay. Because we run into the same thing where people don't have IDs. And Jen was just talking to me about this the other day. Is that something, we don't know much about it. Can we reach out to you to get more information? Okay, thank you. We will.
Okay, we have a couple of minutes. Let's talk about April. Remember, our meetings are the last Thursday of the month. April has a lot of Thursdays, so we will not see each other again until the 30th. Laura and I were talking if Laura and Lieutenant can maybe talk Commander Richards into coming and talking about his FBI Academy experience. Would you all be interested in that?
Yes.
Yes.
He already accepted the invitation.
Okay.
Laura has to do stuff right where she forgets.
Thank you, Laura. As we're thinking ahead to May, are there topics that you're interested in for May?
Say that again.
Are there topics you're interested in for May?
I saw this morning, I think, in the paper that Raul Buhanda, he passed FBI, what was it? But he's now the city's public safety, whatever.
Executive Director of Public Safety, I think it's his title. Is that right?
Do you think that
You passed the class, right?
we might be able to get him to come and talk about what his vision is and how we can help him as well as how he can help us.
Yes, I can work on that. Any other topics you're interested on, just in case I need to work with people's schedules, no pressure?
One topic I'd like to talk about in the future is ending homelessness. What organizations have are actually successful in getting people off the street and back into living normal.
Do you and I wanted to chat? Okay. Chloe.
I don't have a suggestion, but I wanted to make an observation if I'm right. I've been patrolling this area, I always do, and I talk about it. I wanted to say that in the last, well, for sure since our last meeting, they've really been doing a good job on this vacant lot over here. They cleaned it up. They did a really bang up job cleaning it up. There was an abandoned car there for 2 whole days before it got taken away.
Only 2.
I'm seeing a lot of improvement right here within a block of there. I don't know who to say that. I sent a 311. Thank you. Good job. I sent a 311 with no complaint attached saying thank you.
Great. No, but when you saw it, you reported it though, right?
Huh?
The car?
I didn't report the car because someone else had already reported it. When I went to report it, they showed like reports and it was already reported.
Denise has
And
been
I've-
sending us vehicles in the area as well.
So 2 days later, it was gone. I'm like the one Ashley waited 10 weeks to get.
I know. I actually tried to make it longer just to follow him. I'm like, Did you? Like, hi, Molly.
Yeah, really, there was a smiling in the dirt.
Right.
That car used to be.
Yeah,
Thank you. Well, I appreciate it. Mike.
Okay, I wonder if we might be able to get Paul Chavez, correct, from State of the Heart Recovery. They have, my wife said there was a huge crowd at the old Albuquerque Barbers College building on the southwest corner of San Pedro and Lomas. And apparently he's taken over the entire building and has got a lot of activity over there. And it would be nice to have him come and talk about what sorts of programs he's offering, what it took to get there. Because I've seen his other facilities, which were really rather small, but I didn't have time to track him down in the building the day that I stopped in there. I mean, there must have been at least 100 people standing in line to get inside the building. So something remarkable is going on over there.
Yeah, you're gonna see it all over town in the next 3 years.
Good.
From what I understand with State of the Heart, and I might be wrong, but they've done events with us, is people have to engage in their recovery services, I believe, in order to get shelter, housing, and that type of things. But if people engage in their services, they get them quick. And they have peer support workers. I don't know a ton about their services, but that's just kind of what I've heard.
That's a drug rehab.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They have IOP.
They own that building now.
It's packed.
There's no silver bullet solution, as I think everybody here has addressed and recognized. There's not one approach that's going to work for every single person. And sometimes it takes repeated engagement. And so it would be nice to know what's going on there so that we can see how it might relate to what other organizations around town are doing different things and how they can work together.
So my background is in child abuse investigation, actually. I did it for about 15 years. I know a ton about trauma. And one of my coworkers, who's a clinician, we have clinicians in our unit who go out, for mobile crisis. We were just talking about, I forget how, we're talking about kind of what we're dealing with now, like adults who have all sorts of things that they're dealing with. And she said to me, she goes, I think trauma is the gateway drug. Like trauma, childhood trauma, I mean, it's not treating children and their trauma is not the solution to ending it, but I think if you start when they're young, especially children who don't have supportive families, it can change a lot for futures. Now, as adults, people need to want to accept the services and participate in them, but a lot of the people I'm finding have, when I ask about their childhood, they're like, it was terrible, horrible. Just in my previous job, I'd interviewed teenagers who are in detention, so very long story short, but when child victims need to be interviewed, police don't do it. There's a group of people that do it, and I used to do that. So, but anyways, I would go in, and sometimes when somebody was in a juvenile detention center who'd been a victim of some sort of crime in there, but part of talking to them is asking them, like, tell me about your childhood. And they were in for some serious things like homicide. And then as they start talking about their childhood, you start to understand how they ended up where they're at. And in, work, the last couple of years I've been doing this work, it's the same thing. When you get to know somebody, tell me about your family, about your childhood, what kinds of things are you struggling with? It becomes very clear, like, anybody who doesn't know, you can look up adverse childhood experiences, people who have, ACEs, yeah. And, but a lot of childhood trauma it doesn't mean you're going to, but a lot of childhood trauma without support and healing and recovery, especially from family members, if you don't have that, then it can lead down the road of the people that we are trying to help now, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean that, you have trauma as a child that you're gonna end up down that road. And not everybody who's on this road has had childhood trauma, but there's a really strong correlation.
And it's so important that we take care of the youth.
Yes.
So we focus on the youth with this, really, this area.
Yeah, because you can prevent a lot. I'm a firm believer in that. If you catch people while they're young. Yeah. So.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you guys. It was good to see you. You know how to get a hold of me if you need anything before next month. Have a good night.